recording. All right. And we are recording. Hi, I'm Matt. I'm with otherpeoplesmovies.com, and we are here on our third podcast now, and we are going to discuss the films of Wes Anderson. My friend Luke and I are here, are going to compare and contrast our ranking of his 12 to date, 12 feature films. I know he's got another one in the pipeline with Tom Hanks and Scarlett Johansson, and it sounds really interesting. It sounds like he's doing kind of stepping out of his comfort zone, which we'll get into later, which is something I'd like to see him do. And it sounds like an interesting movie. The title escapes me, but look it up if you're interested. It sounds interesting, and that should be out in 2025. So as of now, as of this recording, it is 12 movies. But yeah, I think Wes Anderson. My relationship with Wes Anderson is I've seen all of his movies in the theater since not Bottle Rocket. I did not see Bottle Rocket in the theater, but Rushmore. Ever since Rushmore, I saw most of his movies in the theaters. I don't go to the theater too much anymore these days, so I haven't seen a lot of his latest ones in the theater, but I've seen most of his movies in the theater. I think he's a fascinating filmmaker. I think he's one of the most identifiable auteurs working today, if not the most identifiable. He's he just has a singular and individualistic style, and I admire him immensely. I wouldn't necessarily rank him as one of my favorite filmmakers. I don't always emotionally connect with him. I don't always. I feel like he treads familiar ground often, which is something we'll get into as we rank his movies. But I'm glad he exists. I'm glad someone with his sensibilities is able to exist in the mainstream like he does, and get the support of big stars to be in his movies and major studios to fund his very eccentric tastes. So I think it's great that we have him. Whatever critiques I have of him, I say it with love because I'm glad he's out there. I'm glad he's doing his Wes Anderson thing. There are things I'd like to see him do as he develops as a filmmaker and matures more and more, but we'll see what he does. And how about you, Luke? What do you think? What's your relationship with Wes Anderson?
I feel exactly the same way. He is an auteur to be respected and feared.
Yeah.
No, I don't know about that fear, but no, he has one of the most distinctive styles that throughout all of his films, it's right away, that's a Wes Anderson film,
right.
He has
right.
Almost I think the same font, the same, frame style, just about all of them. And it's right. So you have to be in the mood to for that kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the way it is with all movies. I'm in the mood for a comedy. I'm in the mood for a psychological thriller.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the mood for a Wes Anderson. So which almost makes him like a genre unto himself.
Right.
Which I don't know if that's fair to him or to any other filmmaker, but
I think I think there are certain filmmakers out there who are a genre in and of themselves. David Lynch comes to mind. Not many filmmakers come to mind, but David Lynch definitely comes to mind. Wes Anderson definitely comes to mind. Terry Gilliam at his most unrestrained comes to mind. But yeah, it's a select few filmmakers, but he definitely belongs in that category.
And with each of those filmmakers that you mentioned, the style is varied, and you won't immediately know that it is a film of that filmmaker as much as you will with Wes Anderson. Wes Anderson, right away, that's a Wes Anderson movie. Just because
I agree with you. David Lynch, I don't know about. You can pretty much tell it's a David Lynch movie. Most of his 10 movies that he's done, you can usually tell it's his movie within the first 10 seconds or so. But that's true. I'm not going to say Wes Anderson's more so, but I would say he's equally so. I think but definitely the way that just the first few moments of a Wes Anderson movie, immediately it's just like, this is a Wes Anderson movie. So I agree with you. And I can't think of another filmmaker who does it more.
Yeah. With David Lynch, he uses the dream logic a lot. Not in all of his movies, but in most of his, and it makes them. It can make them difficult to interpret, difficult to um, endure if you're not ready for that.
Yeah.
And in some ways, that Wes Anderson's films might be the same way. That his style is so specific
Yeah.
that if you're not ready for that style, you might be just turned off right away. Never want to touch another Wes Anderson film.
There are moments when I turn on a Wes Anderson movie, or yeah, when I turn on one of his movies, and I'm into his mind, and within 5 or 10 seconds, and I'm just like, I'm not feeling this today. I've done that. I've shut off his movies before. And it took me a while to see Darjeeling Limited because I saw the first few minutes of it, and I was just like, I'm not feeling this after Royal Tenenbaums and everything else he's done. I just in Life Aquatic, he's done this. I've seen this. But I eventually saw the movie and appreciated it. But long story short, and we'll get into that on the ranking. But yeah, there have been times where there have been times when I've turned on his movies if either it's something I've seen or something I've not seen. I'm just like, not tonight, not tonight. It's a very specific feeling that you get watching his movies, and it's a very specific world you're entering.
I told one of my best friends from college. He is my best friend from college. He works in the film industry, so I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to. I don't want. But needless to say, he's not a fan of Wes Anderson.
Okay.
And we've talked about this a few times, and he called me up and so that we could talk a little bit why he doesn't like Wes Anderson. And he said that the reason he doesn't is that it's too gimmicky.
Okay.
It's too. He said that.
There are times when I agree with him.
Yeah, that he said that and we agreed that if it serves the narrative, then it's good.
Mm-hmm.
That really that's all that should matter.
Mm-hmm.
But he said that it's like a brilliant film student who's constantly in love with his cleverness, who's like, look at what I can do, look at this, and it's like, and he compared it to Tarantino in that way, and that Tarantino is so in love with how great of a filmmaker is, and how much he knows about film that he can just like get away with stuff, his fonts, that square thing he did that in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
So he said he made reference to a specific scene in Life Aquatic where they're running along. I think they're running along the beach, and he's like, "Yes, this is a movie. This has action. I'm in it now." And and then he just does something that's Wes Anderson-y, and it just brought him right out of it.
Yeah.
So for 30 seconds or whatever, he was like, "Yes, this is what a film is about. It's supposed to be about."
Yeah. Sometimes that style that you just pointed out works for me. A lot of the times it doesn't, and again we'll get into this in our ranking. But a lot of his later films, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more when it comes to his later films. But yeah.
Well, like I don't hate Wes Anderson the way that he does.
Yes.
And I don't even hate Darjeeling Limited the way that people who like Wes Anderson want to hate him.
The movie's definitely grown on me. The movie definitely grew on me.
Darjeeling Limited actually might be my favorite Wes Anderson movie because I mean it's even though it's from a ethnocentric perspective, it speaks to my own heart as a seeker in my 20s, turn to Buddhism but at the same time I understand those criticisms of who say that he's like fetishizes Orientalism, and I think that we have to be careful about that because I don't know. I guess we can talk about that when we get to Darjeeling Limited.
Sure.
but I do think that it's I just I am concerned about criticisms of appropriation and um yeah I we take our so, I mean we have to acknowledge our privilege and approach the public space, you know, in more responsible ways when we can do a lot of harm just with our ignorance.
Sure, sure,
Yeah,
sure.
and filmmakers have a lot of power, so I think that he needs to, and maybe he is more culturally aware than he used to be. I don't know.
Yeah, but you don't feel like he's culturally aware.
So no, no,
Okay,
that's not what I'm saying. I think that he is cultured for sure.
okay,
There, I mean, he lives in France. He lives in
sure,
Paris.
sure,
He has to, you know,
sure.
he'd have to
I
be.
didn't know he lived in Paris. I didn't know he lived in France.
Yeah, he and he has his. I think his girlfriend, fiance, wife. I think she's of Jordanian
Okay,
descent, and
okay,
I think she's the daughter of a filmmaker herself or something.
okay.
I don't follow, you know, celebrity gossip very much, but I did want to look a little bit into him so that I could have a more informed perspective when we talk
Gotcha,
today. And
gotcha.
I don't remember the details, but he has an he has an interesting life. He has led it
Yes,
from coming
sure.
from Houston to, you know, living in Paris. I mean,
Yeah,
I
and you see
I
that you see that reflected in his movies for sure.
yeah, oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, very much so. All right, very nice, very nice. Well, you ready to get into the ranking?
Absolutely.
All
Let's
right, all
start.
right. And do you have a ranking prepared, or are we just going to go off mine?
No, no, no. I I know which one's my favorite. I know which one's my least favorite, and that's that.
Okay.
And
Well, then,
actually, I the, I don't have I just don't have a ranking. Sorry.
okay, I understand. Don't worry about it. We'll just go off mine. All right. Well, I'm just gonna kind of we'll talk about them individually, but since we're not going to be going off of your ranking either, I'm gonna go off my least favorite three, and they're his most recent films. And
Hmm.
I'm just gonna kind of name them together and kind of tell you my problem with them, kind of lumping them together of why I'm kind of having issues with his work lately. And that is 12 French Dispatch, 11 Asteroid City, and 10 The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, and three more, which I know may not technically be a feature, but they did. Netflix did compile all those short films into a feature to be seen as a
Yes.
feature, so I'm including it.
Yeah.
So all three of those films, I believe I graded them for the site, and or at least yes, all three of them I have written many reviews of, and I gave all three of them a C plus. They're not bad movies. I appreciate them. Technically, they're inventive. They're beautiful
Yeah.
to look at. He's really pushing himself the boundaries of his form. He's really playing with cinematic form with these three movies. It's fascinating for him as a filmmaker, I'm sure, but as an audience member, I am not interested in it. He has this kind of imposed theatricality in his recent
Yeah.
movies, and
Hmm.
it's not a cinematic experience to me. It's very dry. It's very I'm not connected to what's going on screen, and I appreciated of the three of them. I think Henry Sugar was the most daring and inventive of taking the adapting Roald Dahl and literally adapting his prose as a performance piece.
Hmm.
That was interesting. I was like, okay, I've never seen this, but 90 minutes of it got real old. So, and even 20 minutes of it, if I would have just watched them as shorts individually, they got real old. So those three movies, I feel like I feel like he's scraping new ground. He's breaking new ground for himself, but I don't think he's doing much for his audience. I just don't. I don't feel like he's connecting with his audience. I feel like
Right.
he's not. He doesn't have much concern for how his audience connects to his work at this point, and I don't have a lot of patience for that. I find it interesting. I'm technically impressed by it. I'm just not wowed by it like I was when he was younger. So, what are
Right.
your thoughts on those three films? If
Yeah.
yeah,
I agree. I what you want to see is growth in a filmmaker, and um, I think he is. I don't know that. I mean, I can't speak to him personally because I don't know him, but I only know what other filmmakers have said or other his actors have said about him, and that it's he's great to work with, but as an audience member, as someone sitting at home watching his movies, I don't feel as nourished, visually or or from as a from a narrative film perspective. I don't feel as well fed and as
Yeah.
satisfied and as satiated as I would at from his earlier films, because he just it was a novel approach to filmmaking at the time. And you're right, he just it's old hat now, he just returns the same thing. And I think that there must be some value in it because his actors love doing it. You can clearly tell that they love making
Yeah.
his movies.
You can feel that watching the movies how much they love doing
Yeah.
it. They all
Yeah.
give great committed performances.
Hmm. Yeah. Bryan Cranston, he was in Asteroid City, right? Bryan Cranston, or was he in?
I know he
Was it
was
something
in.
else?
I know he was in Isle of Dogs. I know he was one of the voices in Isle of
Right.
Dogs. I
So
was he in Asteroid City? I don't remember, to be honest. It's been a little
okay.
over a year since I've seen it.
So he was in Isle of the Dogs, and I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that later. But
Sure.
Maybe we should say what Bryan Cranston said when we talk about Isle of Dogs. But Bryan Cranston described the situation of working on a Wes Anderson movie. He said that there's no driver, there's no there are no trailers, that everybody eats together at the same table. They eat their meals together. They stay in the same hotel. That Wes Anderson himself, he drives the actors to the set in his little golf cart or whatever. So it seems like there must be some value in his style of filmmaking.
Yeah.
And just like you said, like they deliver those performances that really are just a step above what you normally see on the screen.
Every single one of those movies I just mentioned, they all have fantastic performances. Like Benicio del Toro blew me away in French Dispatch. That was the best part of that movie, and then the rest of it was just a huge letdown after that section. But so there are pieces of his movies that I really admire, but his most recent ones just don't hang together that well for me.
Yeah, and with French Dispatch, I really liked the set pieces. I really liked that world that he created. Actually, I mean, I like it more than I liked it more than Asteroid City. Asteroid City was just kind of it was just there. I didn't like the characters. I didn't like the story. With the Henry Sugar and other stories, it wasn't that it was too twee, which could be said of any of his films, but they are. Roald Dahl is kind of he's problematic to start with, right? And he just so I think that I don't really want to criticize them from a narrative perspective, but I want to say something nice. The best thing I can say about the best thing I can say about the Henry Sugar and other stories is that they were really tight and disciplined, short films, and that he did a lot with very little. They weren't bottle episodes by any means, but they were, they worked with very few characters and had them act multiple roles, and which probably the actors probably loved that, being able to really stretch their legs in different parts. And but I didn't really care for the stories. I didn't really I think I would have liked it more if Wes Anderson had written something himself, but maybe he's kind of starting to run a little bit dry. I don't know what the story is,
Yeah.
but French Dispatch I actually did like better than the others.
Okay.
I don't know if it was because it was more of an anthology or what, but I kind of liked the idea of it being a frame story where they had multiple vignettes that were pieced together in the style of a magazine.
Yeah.
And it was more or less a visual magazine, or a cinematic magazine, and I really I liked that world, the story of the young, or I don't know if they were young, but the story of the criminals, the detective, the young and his family, the story of at the time I wasn't really transfixed, but I was willing to buy into it more than I was Asteroid City. Gotcha. Or even Henry Sugar.
Gotcha.
I watched them. It had been a long time since I'd seen anything of his in the theater, and perhaps I was just a little. Maybe I was just on Wes Anderson fatigue. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Number 9. This one is going to be a little bit of a surprise to you, I think. This was my first introduction to Wes Anderson, and it was a lot of people's introduction to Wes Anderson. And Rushmore. I don't dislike it, but it's pretty low on my list because I didn't when it came out, and to this day, I don't really get it. I don't get why people love it like they do. I think it's a clever movie. I think it's interesting. If I were grading it, B minus, but I don't love it. People just went gaga over that movie when it came out. And that's not the movie that made me a Wes Anderson fan. I think it's a great role for Bill Murray. I think it's a great role for Jason Schwartzman. I think it's got some interesting cinematography, like every single Wes Anderson movie. I don't emotionally connect to it, and I'm a little cold to it, and I don't particularly find it funny. Yeah. What do you think?
I totally agree.
Okay.
Interesting. It is. I actually like French Dispatch more than Rushmore.
Wow.
Yeah, Jason Schwartzman. It was the first role I'd seen him in.
Okay.
And I didn't understand his appeal at the time. I thought that he looked like a 30-year-old high school student, and I didn't understand. I didn't understand the levity that he was given in the film. I didn't understand. I didn't understand the narrative at all, because I think that it must speak to the private school culture that Wes Anderson, grew up in, or maybe, or that where gifted children are treated differently than people should be, or but Jason Schwartzman's character just got away with far too much for far too long, and that the slap that he received from his teacher when he tried to kiss her was the first time in the movie I was like, finally he gets it. This is like, why was this why was he allowed to get away with his shenanigans for so long?
Right.
And then why wasn't he brought she mollycoddled him through the whole thing, and then when he finally tried to kiss her, and that it was just such a strange and uncomfortable moment that I'm glad it happened, because it was just like, okay, maybe Wes Anderson. It was the first time that I thought maybe Wes Anderson wasn't wasn't so completely out of touch as I thought, because I'd actually seen Bottle Rocket before that.
Okay, I had.
And yeah, I went to school in Texas, and all of them are from Texas, and everybody thought that I was in Bottle Rocket, that I was Luke Wilson in Bottle Rocket,
right?
And evidently Luke Wilson had gone to my school years before I did, and I got calls from teenage girls. It was a very strange time having him and his shadow loom so large over mine. But yeah, I
because, and then just to make it clear to people who are listening, your name's Luke Wilson, like Luke Wilson, Owen Wilson's brother.
Yeah,
so, and you go by Luke, and you go by Luke Anton Wilson, to make it clear.
Yeah, I actually have an IMDb page, which is very strange. I went into, I was a film student, and I made some films with my friends, and I think that if I had a different name, I might have stuck around in Hollywood longer. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah. Hollywood. Yeah. All right. Moving on to number 8, and this is one we already talked about a little bit. Darjeeling Limited. I like it. It grew on me. I don't have a lot to say about it because it didn't blow me away. It's ultimately about moving on from the past. I don't have much else to say about it than that. It's a Wes Anderson movie. I think it's not a spectacular Wes Anderson movie, but I think it's a solid one that displays his sensibilities like every other one of his movies. And I like Angelica Houston at the end. I think she has a very valuable presence in the movie. She really brings the movie kind of to life when the movie's kind of starting to teeter and get a little tedious and a little when it's starting to drag a little bit. Her character coming in towards the end really breathes new life into it. And I'm not sure if I would have liked the movie as much as I do, and I don't love it, if she didn't come in and give the performance that she gave at the end. So I credit Angelica Houston quite a bit for my liking of that movie. And I think Owen Wilson's great. I think Adrien Brody's great. And Adrien Brody, Owen Wilson, who's the third guy?
Adrien Brody, Owen Wilson, and is Jason Schwartzman the third? I think Jason Schwartzman is the third.
Okay. I think so too.
Yeah, he and Natalie Portman had
I think the Hotel
Chevalier before that. Yeah,
it's Hotel Chevalier.
Yeah, it's Hotel. I think it's Hotel Chevalier or Chevalier, maybe Chevalier. I don't know.
I can't pronounce.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm not the greatest Francophile, but I did study French for a long time, so I got that down a little bit.
Good for you.
No. I wish.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Darjeeling Limited we're talking about. So like I mentioned before, I was a spiritual seeker, in my 20s, and I if it came from the Asian continent, I was interested in it for quite a long time. I converted to Buddhism in 1998.
Oh, nice.
And Becky will when I saw Darjeeling Limited's movie poster for the first time, it was in an Evanston theater, and I kind of did it like this. I was super excited just seeing the poster and knowing that Wes Anderson was coming out with a new movie, and that it was set on a train and in India. I thought, what a great concept. These dudes are all kind of looking for meaning and redemption, and I thought, I can connect to that. Yeah. But and I since seeing it, I've had a little bit more perspective, and I know that it's kind of appropriative in some ways. It's kind of it's the brothers, they really take like a slapdash cafeteria style approach to forcing spiritual meaning, and they, where they throw a feather into the air and
Right.
figure out where they're supposed to go, and it leads to absolutely nothing. And so I feel as though Wes Anderson kind of knew that that wasn't the best approach to finding spiritual meaning, and that those characters maybe understood that. But at the same time, I think that it was a very light brush. It was just played off for comedy.
Yeah.
Instead of them wrestling with the darker themes,
Right.
and and kind of abusing the people of color along the way. It was kind of, so it was very
I'm glad you pointed that out. I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, it was. So in that sense, it's very ethnocentric, and it's very, I mean, we have to be aware of our, white supremacy is not a good thing. We have to be aware of our privilege.
Right.
And again, I mean, Wes Anderson's older than me, and I'm sure that he has had more opportunities to glean wisdom from his mistakes. But so in some ways I love Darjeeling Limited, and in other ways I'm kind of embarrassed that it speaks to me so well.
Okay.
But who doesn't love a train movie?
Sure.
Sure. What's Patrick H. Willems? He did a recent episode on how great train movies are, and that the best movies should have trains in them.
Yeah.
Because there's something very cinematic about them. The film keeps running the whole time. The train keeps running the whole time. There's a sense of space and time that's necessary to understanding how both work. You can move inside. If as a character you move around inside of a film, as a passenger you move around inside of a train, and the world is still going on around you. Outside of the theater where you're watching your movie for that short period of time, a whole world is experiencing something completely different.
Very much
same goes on for a train. The train encapsulates a microcosm of your shared experience with the people on the train, and then when you get off of it, you'll probably never see any of those people ever again.
Right.
And the same goes for when you see a movie in a movie theater. So in many ways, it really was symbolic in so many ways. And like, I feel as though the best parts of the movie were when they were getting on and getting off of the train. That when on the train, they kind of forgot their humanity a little bit.
Yeah.
And so it's because they broke up that couple, that woman ended up hating her husband because,
right,
I guess,
right.
And Jason Schwartzman's character was kind of a womanizer who, so there are things that I don't like about those characters, and maybe that's what makes them more real and more more three-dimensional. But I like to have characters that you can see their growth, and that's one of the problems with Wes Anderson movies. Their growth doesn't feel as well earned sometimes.
Right.
It's like,
I think his movies are less and less well written the older they. I feel like the newer the movie, the less well written it is. I feel like that you don't get a lot of growth from his characters in some of his films. Past his first few. So that's a good insight.
Thank you. But I think if I could watch it again, I would love to see, but I don't want to buy it, and
Sure.
it's not available for
Sure.
any of the streaming services that to which we were subscribed.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's not a bad movie. It's not a bad movie, but you opened my. I'm gonna have to think about some of what you said next time I watched it, because that's as a white boy from suburbia, I didn't catch a lot of the stuff that you did. So, but very very good insights. Very good insights. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. Number seven. We are moving on to, and number seven, I like Bottle Rocket, 1996. Wes Anderson's first feature length movie was released.
Mhm.
I think I saw it a couple years after I saw Rushmore. I like it. It's Wes. I think Luke Wilson is hilarious in it. He's always made me laugh. The moment where he's just in a heated moment, and I didn't watch it too recently, so I can't quote it directly, but the moment I where I was like, I think this guy's hilarious, and I that's where I loved Owen Wilson, was where he's in this heated moment with his brother and another character, and then he gets punched, and then he all of a sudden just changes gears, and he's like, "What are we doing? What are we doing?" You know, and it's just like, I'm just that it's like it's just this really human, absurd little moment that Wes Anderson, especially when he was young, was really good at having those little moments in his movies. And it's not my favorite Wes Anderson movie, but it makes me miss young Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
Bottle Rocket does. A good debut, a really solid debut. Good performances, great cinematography, really good production value. Good, they got James Caan in it. It's a good movie. It's not quite. It doesn't have the resonance that some of his best movies do, which we're getting to. We're getting to his better movies, in my opinion. But it's a good, solid, interesting, quirky little independent movie that really showcased a very unique sensibility. So, what do you
Yeah,
think?
I agree. It's it's in some ways the least Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's
I can. Yeah,
it
I agree.
it
More.
it doesn't have that same theatrical frame style
Mhm,
the way that the rest of his movies did
mhm.
afterward.
Yeah.
Um, it what it does have is his quirky approach to character growth,
Mhm.
and it's like you said, yeah, that it's just like a punch is enough to transform Owen Wilson into a self-aware person.
Yes, yes,
Um,
yes.
and,
Dignan. Is Dignan his name, or is that Luke
I
Wilson's
think
character?
so.
I think
I,
Dignan
I
is. It's been a while since I've seen it, but yeah,
it has
I love
yeah
that character, and Owen Wilson just nails it.
yeah
Uh,
yeah Owen Will. Oh, that was the first time I'd been exposed to Owen Wilson.
yeah,
Same with Luke Wilson,
yeah.
and
I think my first Owen
yeah,
Wilson was Cable Guy, but that was my first time seeing him in a lead role.
I don't I didn't remember he was even in Cable. I
He's the
couldn't
guy
remember.
Jim Carrey beats up in the bathroom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's Owen
I
Wilson.
I've seen I'm not even sure if I've seen Cable Guy the whole way through.
Mm.
You're talking Jim Carrey beat someone up in the bathroom.
Yeah, that's Owen Wilson. It's Owen Wilson.
Owen Wilson, he has some mystery about him. I've
Yeah,
been watching him in Loki, and you see that nose of his and how horribly misshapen it
yeah.
is, and just like he has some trauma that he doesn't want to talk
Yeah,
about.
yeah. He's an
Yeah,
interesting guy. He's an interesting guy. You read.
I,
I don't want to get into gossip and stuff, but if you read enough about him,
it,
he's an interesting guy. He's not a cookie cutter vanilla guy that he appears to be.
yeah,
He's got some edge to him. He's an interesting
yeah.
guy.
I,
But that being said, I don't care who he is personally. Love the art. I mean, love the
yeah,
art. Ignore the artist. I'm a firm believer in that for the most part.
yeah,
I enjoy seeing him on screen. I don't think he's as interesting now as he was when he was younger than that. I don't think that's his fault. Well, he's not choosing as interesting of roles as he did when he was younger. Or maybe those roles just aren't as available to him as he gets older. But
oh,
I still like him. I still like him.
have you seen? But you've seen Loki, right? The Loki series?
I didn't care for it.
No, you didn't. No.
No.
Oh, Sorry, I love it.
Yeah,
But that to each their own.
yeah.
Um,
To each their own. I want Marvel to succeed. They've done enough good work that I don't want to see them go downhill. So I'm glad that
y-
people are liking it.
yeah, I we just we when we moved from Chicago, we stopped subscribing to Disney Plus for a while, and so I kind of lost track of. But I'm since we got a Verizon package that includes a subscription to Disney Plus. So I've been rewatching. I haven't been rewatching. I've been catching up on the Marvel movies and the TV shows.
Nice,
And
nice.
I don't know why I'm such a fanboy. I know all the criticisms,
Nothing wrong with it.
but
Nothing wrong with
but
it.
but Owen, I just think that he's great in Loki.
Good.
Teach their own.
Good. All right.
Uh,
Yeah, I think Owen Wilson's great, and I wish him the most success. I like seeing him succeed, no matter what it is. So I
but
like it.
Bottle Rocket, I thought the James Caan character was really what made it, because he kind of played this. I don't remember Rebecca De Mornay's character and De Mornay's character in Risky Business, and James Caan's character in uh, Bottle Rocket were sort of the same character. They're both sort of live these criminal underbelly lives that are just on the periphery of respectability, and they teach the main characters, you don't belong in this world.
Yeah.
This is, and so Bottle Rocket is a white guy suburbia, like, check yourself.
Yeah.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
That's the message. It's like
Yeah.
know who you are before you decide to rob a bank. Know who you
Right.
are before you decide
Exactly.
to
No.
host a house party with a bunch of prostitutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Very true. Very nice. Very nice. All right. Moving on to number 6. Isle of Dogs from 2018. I haven't been saying the years of the movies, but oh well. I think people can figure that out for themselves. Isle of Dogs, really cool movie. I don't quite love it, but I really, really like it. I'm a dog lover. I think Wes Anderson and stop motion animation are a beautiful marriage. I think
Yeah.
his sensibilities, his meticulousness, really lends itself to that media. I think I think it's a very strong movie. It resonates with me as a dog lover. I like the characters. I don't know. I can't really quite put my finger on. I don't quite love it, but I think if memory serves, it goes on a little long. It probably should have been closer to 90 minutes, and it was a bit over that. Um, and I think I remember getting a little bored in certain spots, but it always gets back on track. It's an interesting movie. I love the style. I love the designs. It's one of his stop motion movies. This is an interesting fact. His stop motion movies were both shot by the same person, Tristan Oliver, who's a big director of photography for a lot of stop motion features. But every single one of his movies, aside from the stop motion movies, were photographed by Robert Yeoman. Uh, so he's always worked with the same cinematographer in every one of his movies,
Yeah.
aside from his stop motion movies. And I think it's a testament that looking at his uh, live action movies that were all shot by the same person, and then looking at his stop motion movies, I don't see any difference. The same sensibilities are there
Yeah.
100%, whether it's live action with one DP or stop motion with another DP. The same sensibilities are there. It's through and through. It's a Wes Anderson movie, and I think Isle of Dogs is very charming. I love Bryan
Yeah.
Cranston's voice. He's the lead character.
Yeah.
I just think it's very charming, and I think it's beautifully designed, and it's a good story, and uh, I just I wish I could recollect exactly what bothered me about it that kept it from being like, oh, I love this movie because I almost do, but I think it was the length, and I think it got. I think if I remember right, there were a couple little subplots that were just, nah, we don't need this. So, and again, that relates to the length. What do you think?
I Isle of Dogs, I loved it.
Okay.
There are some movies I wish I could play as a video game, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's cool.
It's there are so many neat little moments in it, but I'd like to be able to play it one way through, as is, that like, and then the second time I like to be able to play it through with all the Japanese translated, so that I could have like, I have another layer of experience in enjoying it. I think that Isle of the Dogs, it might be a better movie if it might have been a better movie if if Wes Anderson was Japanese himself. So maybe there might be some cultural aspects of the movie that are that were just lost opportunities because he doesn't understand Japanese culture as well as as someone who is native to Japan might. But for someone who's watched a lot of Japanese movies, it felt very similar in many ways. It felt like it was an homage to the greatest films from Japan in many ways.
I read something recently that the movie doesn't offer any English subtitles for the Japanese, and the reason behind this was he wanted to communicate the unreliability of translation. So, and
makes sense.
I guess for a movie about people relating to dogs, that might have been the theme that connects it. So it's interesting. It's interesting. Because I was watching it not too long ago. I have seen it fairly recently, and I was watching it. I was like, why can't I get the subtitles to work? And no. It's a very good movie, and it's right on the edge. I'm right on the edge of loving it, but not quite.
Yeah, but I don't blame you. It's there. I understand that criticism, and I don't blame you for having it. It's you run the risk whenever you have a child star in it, that there's always a risk that it's just going to be a little too twee and a little bit pedantic or patronizing, and I think that you don't want to traumatize a child actor, so that might be necessary. But I think that in Wes Anderson films, children are often given unnatural superpowers that don't necessarily serve the film. Okay. So in that movie, there was a Japanese little boy who was so brilliant he was able to, put together his own flying. I don't want to. It was an airplane. It was like a miniature airplane that was launched, I think, with a slingshot or something. I mean, and he flew it. He flew over the
something like that. Yeah.
He flew over the island and crash landed, and the fact that he wasn't hurt, the fact that he was able to make it work at all. I understand, in many ways, it was like a Roald Dahl. Oh, what happened there?
Right.
Why did that happen? Is that, if I could do this, does that something happen there too?
Did you see those balloons?
Yeah, I saw. Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know.
If I do this, will something happen? I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, well, I don't. Why? I wonder what happened. Why all of a sudden there were those balloons?
I don't know.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter.
Roald Dahl.
Did I press a key? Is that what did it?
I don't think so.
So Roald Dahl, Roald Dahl's stories were kind of same kind of fantasy aspect where children have imaginations that come alive, and
Yeah.
I think in some ways I think that's fantastic. Maybe it was just a family movie, and
Yeah.
maybe he made a movie for his kids so that they could, because maybe just wanted to make a movie about dogs, and dogs aren't naturally good actors. You have to what Hitchcock said something about dogs and child actors or something, didn't he?
Yeah.
I
don't know.
I mean, it doesn't matter. The point is that I think that the reasons why you and I both want to criticize Isle of the Dogs is just that its weaknesses are very transparent.
Yeah.
And it's not the Royal Tenenbaums.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So
No.
I don't know if I have anything more that's that introspect or not that
That's okay.
intuitive to say about it, but I did enjoy it, and I enjoyed it more than some of his other films.
Yeah.
But
Same.
It's not his greatest movie by any means.
It's not his greatest movie. No. And now we're getting to the top 5. And at this point on, I would say I pretty much find these movies to be great. This is why these 5 movies, and I'm sure they have their limitations, they have their faults, but I find these movies to be 5 pretty great movies. And any director who has 5 great movies to their name is worth their salt, in my opinion. And yeah, so I have trouble ranking these top 5, but I did, and we'll just go from there. So number 5, Grand Budapest Hotel. Just watched it this afternoon. Actually, I hadn't watched it. I hadn't seen it for a couple years. I put on my Criterion Collection Blu-ray, and it holds up. It's a quirky, funny. I don't have a lot to say about it. It's a very it's just a very Wes Anderson movie. It's just Ralph Fiennes is wonderful. It's like I wish he would have been nominated for an Oscar for that role. It was just he he captured the essence of the gentleman of the gentleman servant so perfectly, and it was just a wonderful movie. I'm at a loss for words with it. I love the movie. I can't really come to terms as to I can't really express why very easily, but Grand Budapest Hotel. What do you think?
It really captured a lot of my imagination. I love hotel lobbies. I love being in hotels and where you can contact someone 24/7 to help you with a problem, or and you have to take. I mean, those are delicate worlds that are very easy to abuse. I'm a terrible guest. I am much better being in my own space than I am being in other people's homes. But so when I'm in a hotel, although I'm a little bit afraid of bed bugs, I love to be treated like royalty, and and it really got a sense that the people who were guests at the Royal the Grand Budapest Hotel, that they were treated like royalty, and you understood why people wanted to come back again and again, and why people just wanted to live their whole lives there, and why people loved working there, because it really was just a beautiful set piece from beginning to end. And my main problem with all of Wes Anderson's movies are that the characters can sometimes be unlikable, and like you said, it's
I don't mind that when a character's unlikable, as long as it's honest. I don't mind it.
So with Ralph Fiennes, like you said, he was a there was something about him that you couldn't help but just really love.
Oh, I love. Yes, I'm glad we agree on that. I was worried you were about to say Ralph Fiennes was unlikable.
No. I I I mean, I like. I mean, I thought that Ray Fiennes was great as
Yeah.
as Voldemort. You know, I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh, Ray Fiennes
there's
is endlessly great. I've
yeah.
never seen him do a bad
What the
performance.
I did
I
it again?
don't
How is
know. I don't know. I don't know.
is it a touch a button here
I
or
don't know.
no? It's is it is it this? Is it this?
I don't
Well,
know.
there's something I'm doing that. Uh, let's what no.
I don't
Well,
know.
yeah, doesn't matter. Anyhow, um, now there when you can get like hearts or like if I do this,
I don't know.
if I do heart. Okay, well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Sometimes I I should have had that feature turned off, but I don't. This is the only the second time I've ever used this
Yeah.
WhatsApp
Yeah.
chat. So, um, uh, the young man who's in it, he was so earnest. And you
I
couldn't.
wish I could think of his name. I feel bad. I forgot his name.
But yeah, I didn't. Even though there were things about those characters that I didn't like, you couldn't help but like them
Yeah.
overall.
I thought that is a good point. I do believe that Grand Budapest Hotel may very well contain. Let me look here.
And it's
Yeah,
the exotic.
aside from one or two other movies, I think Grand Budapest Hotel may have his most likable characters. Is the
Yeah.
Ray Fiennes character and the young man, and then not to mention Edward Norton coming in as the policeman, the very likable and helpful policeman. He's very likable. Well, there are a couple.
Oh yeah, Edward Norton. Oh yeah,
yeah.
Again, Edward Norton. I mean, he is one of the greatest actors of his generation. I mean,
Sure.
Ray Fiennes is too, but
Sure.
Edward Norton, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think there's some age difference I think between them. So they're not of the same generation. But
right.
Edward Norton can do no wrong.
No, I agree.
But I keep returning to the exotic nature of the Grand Budapest Hotel. It's a place where you really want to go and stay.
Yeah.
You know, and
totally.
I as a movie, you really, it's like there are movies that you can live in.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one of them.
Yeah, and I agree. You just get a sense of that place's history. You just get a sense of who these people are in that universe and in that world. And it's just and when a movie does that, it's very special. You get you understand its history. Yeah.
I reminded the hotel scenes reminded me of the hotel scenes from Lawrence of Arabia.
Okay.
You know, in Damascus.
Okay.
You know, that it just or the hotel scenes in what's like maybe what the what's the name of that the Mummy, not the old Mummy, the more recent one with and not the one with Tom Cruise, but the one what's his, I can't remember, that Brandon,
I don't know.
It was in the 1990s.
Those ones. He just won the Oscar for The Whale. Brendan Fraser.
What's his name?
Brendan Fraser.
Yeah. So Brendan Fraser, there were some scenes in a hotel there, and it had the same kind of exotic like feel, like you can almost feel the wind, you know, coming through the scene.
Yeah.
And I just really love hotels in movies, and when it's done well, it's, you know, you just want to go there and just visit.
Nice.
But I wish I could say that about every movie hotel.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Number 4, Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. A lot of people don't care for this movie. I personally think it's one of Bill Murray's best roles. I'd rank it up there in his top 10, if not his top 5 roles of all time. I think he captures the character beautifully. This kind of burnt
Yeah,
out, dried out old stoner man who doesn't really care about anything until somebody re-enters his life and reinvigorates him. And it's
yeah,
an old story done very well with typical quirk from Wes Anderson and typical artistry. I love the stop motion animation sequences. This was his first time working with stop motion animation, and the stop motion was done by Henry Selick, the genius behind Nightmare Before Christmas and Coraline. I just think it's the first movie. I believe it's the first movie he did that wasn't co-written with by Owen Wilson. The Owen Wilson was his co-writer for the first three movies: Bottle Rocket, Royal Tenenbaums, and Bottle Rocket, Rushmore, and Royal Tenenbaums. But uh, um, but yeah, I think Steve Zissou is. I think it's very underrated. I think it's a great adventure. I think it's an adventure movie that only Wes Anderson could make.
yeah,
Wonderful performances. I love Willem Dafoe as the kind of needy
yeah,
sidekick.
yeah.
It's I remember, yeah, yeah. I Angelica Houston, fantastic again, another great Angelica Houston performance in a Wes Anderson movie. I think it's a very underrated movie, and I rank it amongst his best. What do you think?
I totally agree.
Okay,
It's
cool, cool.
I wish I had seen it again because I would have liked to have had more meaningful things to say about it. I the I didn't like it at first because we talked about unlikable characters,
Yeah,
and the Bill Murray's character is kind of obnoxious,
yeah,
and but it grows on you. At least it grew on me.
yeah.
Like I
He
left
has an
the
arc.
theater enjoying it much more than I did at the start of it,
Yeah, yeah.
and um I I thought I didn't understand the stop motion aspect of it. That kind of drew me out of it.
Really, I
But
loved it. I loved it.
well, remember that at the time it was just something different. I just thought it
Yeah.
was just like, oh well, this is it was kind of, I think it was kind of like my friend I mean, but my friend my friend's comment about him about using gimmicks to sell his films, that was one of the gimmicky parts of it
Okay,
about
interesting.
Life Aquatic. On the other hand, um, I thought that it was in many ways is a beautiful fever dream. I don't
Hmm.
it it so much of it just didn't feel real at all to me. It felt like it was,
I don't feel like most of his movies feel real.
yeah. Well,
Any,
that
maybe Bottle Rocket, but
well uh, uh, it was in I felt it was the first movie of his that I'd seen where uh, I really felt like it was maybe some person on their deathbed. It was like some kind of a fever dream that they were having. You know,
yeah,
it just it it really didn't feel. It felt so unreal to me. And then when there was that stop motion sequence, just like it really pulled me even more out of it.
yeah,
But after that, it somehow it redeemed itself in my eyes because we'd been through. It was like we'd been through some trauma together, and I ended up really enjoying it.
yeah,
That's the reason why I wish I could watch it again so I could have something more meaningful to say about it,
yeah.
because it it feels as though, I mean, that the yellow submarine that they had in it was didn't feel like a real submarine at all.
Hmm.
And
That's kind of.
um
I like the unreality of it. I like
okay,
that's Wes Anderson. That's Wes
yeah,
Anderson's brain. That's just it.
yeah,
This isn't a real submarine. It's a Wes Anderson submarine. You
yeah.
know
Oh,
what I mean? So,
that's a really
but
good
that
point.
but that's gimmicky. But that's also, like you and your friend said, that's also gimmicky, and it can take you out of the movie. I
Yeah,
There are other touches in his movies where I don't like it. For Life Aquatic, I thought it was a perfect vehicle for it.
And that is a great point, because you have to really be in the mood to suspend your disbelief and just go along for the ride. You know, like with Wes Anderson taking you by the hand and being like, "You're mine for the next 2 hours."
Yeah.
And as if you're fine with that, then great. If you're not, you won't be a Wes Anderson fan, and that's okay.
Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Number 3, Moonrise Kingdom. Again, I think this is the movie that I think Rushmore should have been. This is the movie that's really about a movie through the eyes of adolescence and this innocent whimsy and this beautiful story of these young lovers running away from society together, and then it's a great performances by Bruce Willis, Edward Norton, Frances McDormand. I think it's just a wonderful, whimsical uh, representation of what it's like to be that age and what it's like to be young and in love and all those wonderful things. So I think it's a very innocent movie. I have a female friend, and I'll just throw this out there. I have a female friend who's very creeped out by the movie. She thinks it. She says she gets kind of creepy vibes from it with the way that the children are depicted, and I can see that. It didn't bother me because it felt very innocent to me. But I have a different perspective from her. I have a white man's perspective, so I may not see things that she sees. But for me, it was an innocent movie about the innocence of that age, and I thought it was a perfect movie for Wes Anderson to make. I just think it's I think it's one of his best.
Yeah, I this is one of the ones I don't agree with you on.
Okay.
I wish I understand why you feel that way, and I wish I saw it that way. I kind of agree with your friend. Like, I felt like the children might have been exploited a little bit.
Wow.
In the movie.
Okay.
And I think that for I am not a parent. You know, I have nieces and nephews that I don't see very often, and but I think that they like me. I you know, but
I'm sure
I don't have. Yeah, I don't have like. I don't have. I'm not a. I don't consider. I don't consider myself a role model in their lives. I'm not like. I'm very. I see them maybe once or twice. You know, or maybe like once every 1 or 2 years, maybe. So I don't interact with children very often because I don't really understand what it's like to raise kids. Okay. You know, I don't want to. And that having been said, so when I've you know, on what's his it's not Stephen Colbert, not what's the name of the Jimmy, not he does the street he does street interviews, but he also does like send in he had parents send in videos of their kids crying about having the parents, you know, play pranks on them where they eat all the they say they're eating all their candy, and they're these. They feel really abusive and everything like that. Yeah. And so I made a comment about that on one of the videos.
Yeah.
And someone told me to shut the fuck up. I didn't know what I was talking about. You know that that there's nothing wrong with the videos. You know, and like okay, they're not my kids. You're right. I don't have. So if the parents of child actors feel comfortable with their kids being in movies, great. But at the same time, you know about child actors who've grown up, you know, with abuse stories. You know, Jodie Foster and
he's nice. I don't think Jodie Foster had an abuse story, but I know.
Well, she she has something going on.
Okay,
But
maybe. I don't know. I'll have to read. I'll have to research.
I mean,
I'll have to research.
with I think she had kind of an inappropriate relationship with Robert De Niro's character, and so like in
Taxi
Driver. And so I like that's so, and whether or not she was exploited is almost beside the point.
Right.
I don't think that it was right to put a child in that role because of the implications of a child prostitution and trafficking but then it goes back to my earlier comment about Jason Schwartzman's character in Rushmore. I mean, he was.
I think it's when you do that. I think it's
when I do this. Yeah. What is it? What?
There you go. Yep, I think so. Oh well.
So Rushmore. That's a bad habit. I apologize.
Okay. Don't. It's nothing to apologize for.
So Rushmore. Jason Schwartzman's character. Just because he was short. Just because he's short doesn't mean he's believable as a child actor.
Yeah.
But again, I'm a short person myself, and no one would ever,
Mm-hmm.
But so yeah, he's short. Schwartzman is a great actor nonetheless. Yeah. So he did fine in Rushmore.
Yeah.
But asking children to play themselves or play characters in films, it's asking a lot, and I think that some directors, I don't know what happened on set. I don't know if they were exploited or if they were fine. I don't know anything about it, but I got a similar creepy feeling that your friend did.
Okay.
And I watched it and I was just like, I wish that I hadn't.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I understand what you're saying. There are aspects of it that are brilliant, and you're right. Yeah. It's young love is a thing, and it's to ignore it and pretend that it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
To pretend that children aren't capable of experiencing, emotions that are just as valid as any adult's emotions. That would be wrong.
Yeah.
It just didn't. I didn't have the same feeling coming out of it that you did. That's
okay.
All.
Okay, that's fair. That's very fair. I'll have to look at it with a different set of eyes sometimes and see how.
No, not necessarily. I mean, I
may not agree with you, but I'll have to look at it from that perspective sometime, and I'll have to see how I feel looking at it from a different perspective. All right. Number 2, Fantastic Mr. Fox. I love it. I think it was almost my number 1, but I couldn't quite boot number 1 out of its spot. But there's not enough. I'm a stop motion fanatic. I think the stop motion is wonderfully, what's the word I'm looking for? Wonderfully kind of rough in a wonderful way, in an intentional way. It's got this very handmade feel to it. It's just beautiful to look at. Beautiful designs, wonderful animation, and then the voice actors just add so much to it as well. George Clooney in that lead role, Meryl Streep as his wife, just irreplaceable talents all through and through. I can't say enough good things about this movie. His sensibilities for making a children's movie, and it's kind of an edgy children's movie, but it's still a children's movie. But Wes Anderson's sensibilities really do lend themselves well to both Roald Dahl. I know we have issues with Roald Dahl, but and to just children's movies in general. And I'd like to see him push himself and do more of them. I think it's a great movie. What do you think?
I agree.
Okay.
It's wonderful in so many ways. It's not perfect. There were that one scene where George Clooney's character, the fox, has meets that wolf on the road, or
Yes.
and they interact, and the it's clear that Wes Anderson is trying to make a very heavy-handed comment about um, race or different ethnicities interacting with one, culture shock or something. The wolf isn't wearing clothes and can't speak, and but the wolf and the fox both are able to do a black power fist. I mean, it was, it seemed like
I love
it
that
just
moment. I love that moment.
I did. It. I didn't really understand what Wes Anderson was trying to say in that moment, but for the most part, it really is a wonderful movie.
It really is. It really is. And it's a children's movie that is, it's got so much richness in it for adults as well. It's I have trouble even calling it a kids movie because it's got something to offer everybody. It's great.
I yeah. I it really is. I mean, I love themes that deal with fighting the man,
Yeah.
and the underdog,
Yeah.
triumphing, or at the very least holding their own. And even the thing about the dog, or the interaction with the wolf, you know it I felt like he was trying to embrace his inner fox, his inner beast, and the wolf perhaps represented. Um, not that again. If as I mean, they're both canids, right? So you think that the wolf and the fox would have had something to say,
Hmm.
but um, but the things I loved him. This is really my fault. I had the opportunity to watch the Fantastic Mr. Fox movie again because it's on Disney Plus.
Hmm.
I just didn't.
Oh,
But it really is a fantastic movie,
it really is.
and
It really is.
uh, uh, I think that and and it was actually on because it was so great, and because it seemed like it was so innocent. I felt comfortable. That was the reason why I felt comfortable watching
Hmm.
um, the 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 Sleepaway Camp movie, the Moonrise Kingdom.
Hmm.
That was the reason why, because I thought, well, that okay, like he seems to understand children. Maybe this will be okay. And I think he does. He is actually a father, I think now,
I don't
but
know if he is or not.
but I'm not sure about that.
I don't know.
But regardless, um, there was something just so warm and tender about Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yeah.
I love the little vignettes that happened in their homes. That they it was but I again I wish I had watched it again so that I could
It's all right.
make more
It's
meaningful
all right.
commentary.
It's all right.
But we're getting to our mutual number one.
Yes, number one. I mean, it's yes, it's the only one left, and it's, I think, his greatest accomplishment. I think it's one of the best movies of this century so far. Royal Tenenbaums. I I struggle sometimes to say things about movies that I love, and this is one where it's relatable. It's got a wonderful cast. It's got very, very, very shaded characters, very detailed
Yeah.
characters, rich characters, and they're dysfunctional. They're not necessarily likable, but they're real. They're alive, and that's not something you see a lot of in Wes Anderson's movies, especially as he progressed. It's a very real and relatable and resonant movie, and I think it's his best accomplishment. I'd be surprised totally um, if he ever makes a greater movie. But he peaked very early on in his career with a very fantastic movie, and
Yeah.
I can't say enough good things about that cast. Owen Wilson, Ben Stiller in one of his best performances, and that says a lot. Angelica Houston yet again, Danny Glover, Gene Hackman, who I know was extremely hard on Wes Anderson when they made the movie, but oh gosh,
Could
who
you
am
go
I
on?
forgetting? Well, Luke Wilson is fantastic. Gwyneth Paltrow is
Yeah.
fantastic, and I'm not always a fan of hers. It's just Bill Murray's wonderful in it. He has a wonderful role in it, a supporting role. It's just
Yeah.
I could go on and on about this movie. I love it. I love its relatable themes. I love its characters, and this I hope Wes Anderson and Owen Wilson write again at some point. Movie. I
Yeah.
hope that they write together again, because they wrote some really rich characters with this movie, and that's he's never quite topped that. And I think you got to credit them both for that screenplay, and it's a great screenplay. And they made and Wes Anderson directed a great movie out of it. So, what do you
Yeah.
think?
I totally agree.
Yeah,
And it's, I felt like I knew some of those characters growing up. I, the, I went to, I grew up in a very affluent neighborhood in an affluent suburb of Chicago. And uh, I felt like several, I mean, I've, some of the houses that I spent, God damn it, some of the houses I spent, Jesus Christ, some of the houses that I spent a lot of time in looked almost exactly like the Royal Tenenbaums house.
Mhm.
Like the those characters, not necessarily Gene Hackman's character, although maybe that was oh, maybe I was lucky about that, but almost all of those characters were people that I knew growing up.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
and so yeah, it's that movie is, it's the most Wes Anderson movie in my opinion.
Mhm.
It's the most, but it's also the most it's alive.
Yeah.
It feels more alive than any
yes,
of those other movies.
it is alive. It is alive
Yeah.
with real characters, with real
Mhm.
feelings, with real emotions, and real reactions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
goes to some.
It-
He just goes to some. He goes in depth in a way with these characters that he really never did again. And again, I
Yeah.
gotta credit that with. I think a lot of that's probably Owen Wilson's input as a writer.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, agree.
yeah, yeah,
Owen Wilson. I mean, when Owen Wilson crashed into that when he crashed the car, you almost think that was such a perfect transformative moment for his character.
yeah,
When Ben Stiller's character almost killed him,
yeah,
you understood exactly why he felt that way,
yeah,
and you understood why Luke Wilson's character shaved off all of his hair.
yeah, yeah,
You understood why Gwyneth Paltrow took why she spent so much time in the bathtub,
right,
away from her husband.
right,
You understood why the mother and why Angelica Houston's character and Gene Hackman's character were so distant.
yeah,
The I didn't understand how Gene Hackman's character got to be the way that he was,
okay,
but I didn't. But Gene Hackman's role was so he just loved to hate that character,
Yeah.
and you didn't. I want to say that I didn't really forgive him for shooting his son in the hand.
sure,
I didn't
sure,
forgive him for convincing his family that he had stomach cancer.
right,
I didn't forgive him that for any of the horrible things that he did, but I forgave him for being human.
yeah,
I forgave him for I mean he had that great relationship with his valet.
hmm
He had a great and he Luke Wilson's character, was so redemptive
Yeah.
in so many ways. Those are just
Well,
great characters.
he loved Gene Hackman's character unconditionally. No matter what he had
Yeah,
done to him, he was the one family member who still loved him unconditionally.
which is all the more remarkable because he and Gwyneth Paltrow's characters
Hmm.
were were
Probably the most
essentially
damaged.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if that they ever consummated their love, but I
I
mean,
don't think they did.
but they clearly were soulmates
Yeah,
in the movie.
yeah,
And so that uh, the fact that he wasn't as receptive to Gwyneth Paltrow's dislike of Royal was interesting.
Mm.
It added some dimension to his character,
Very much so.
and so they really were just all of them were really fleshed out characters,
Yeah.
and um, yeah, I just don't have a single bad thing. There are very few perfect movies, and I'm not sure if that's one of them. But
Right.
but it is the most perfect of Wes Anderson's movies.
It is the most perfect of Wes Anderson's movies. I agree with you completely. I agree with you completely.
Yeah, I don't.
Is it
I
a
don't
perfect
understand
movie? I wouldn't go that far. But as far
Yeah,
I don't know if there is a perfect movie. But
yeah,
as far as his movies go, that's the closest he's gotten. And he, for such a young filmmaker and such a talented filmmaker, he got pretty close.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people would say that Casablanca or
Citizen Kane.
Citizen Kane. Yeah, those are a lot of people would argue that those are perfect.
Sure.
But so and if those are the standards, then Wes Anderson still has a lot to live up to. But the there's still Royal Tenenbaums is pretty great.
Great movie.
I don't know if it's as perfect as those, but it's still a pretty great movie.
Yeah. Very nice. Very nice. I agree. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in, everybody. This has been Other People's Movies, and we will catch you next time.
Peace